Marcia McEvoy. She's a licensed psychologist who has worked in a variety of professional settings, including public schools, community mental health, a child guidance clinic, and 2 universities. She has been a clinician, prevention specialist, lecturer, author, and university instructor. She presently owns her own private consulting business. Dr. McEvoy is an expert in the area of aggression prevention, including the prevention of youth suicide. She is the co-author of a book entitled Preventing Youth Suicide, a handbook for educators and human service professionals. She is currently co-authoring a book on the prevention of school-based aggression with the emphasis on bullying, mean teasing, intimidation, and harassment. She has trained thousands of school personnel, parents, and students on this topic and is sought as a consultant to schools all over Michigan and the Midwest. So join me in welcoming Dr. McEvoy.
Thanks, Elise. All right. Well, I had been doing this. First of all, did any of your kids come home and share anything that we did today? Yeah, today we talked about how to deal with annoying behavior. Tomorrow we're going to talk about how to deal with mean behavior and how to be good bystanders. So we started off today with annoying behavior, and I'll show you a little bit of what we did with the kids today. But I've been doing this work for a long time, 20 years. And when I first started doing this work, I had to convince people that bullying was even a problem. 20 years ago, the response that I got from adults was, come on, this is a normal part of childhood. Everyone goes through this. I went through it, you went through it. And if we intervene every time a kid's getting a little bullied, we're going to raise a generation of wimps. So that's what I was getting 20 years ago. Now, the word bullying is omnipresent. It's everywhere. And now every time a kid gets shoved once at school or called a name once, they think they're being bullied, their parents think they're being bullied, everybody thinks they're being bullied. So what I'd like to do is kind of start with my take on this topic after 20 years experience in the field. There are 3 groups of kids in any school I've ever worked in who do mean stuff. The biggest group are really good, great, awesome, terrific kids. But these kids do something mean to another kid because they're showing off for a friend. They want to get attention. They want to get a laugh. They want to fit in. They want to impress somebody. And they're not even thinking about how the other kid feels. They're just having fun with their friends. Now, are they bad kids? No. Are they bullies? No. But have these kids done harm? Yes or no? How many know kids who do mean stuff to show off or get attention or a laugh? Right? Then there's a second group of kids who do mean stuff. These are also really good kids. But these kids have a bad temper. They have a short fuse. They have impulse control problems sometimes. They get easily frustrated. And when they get mad, they have a tendency to lash out and to say and do something mean, and then they feel bad about it about 5 minutes later. And they wish that they hadn't done or said that. They're not bad kids either, and they're not bullies. But have these kids done harm? Yes or no? Do you know kids who do that kind of thing when they're mad? Right? Then there's a third group of kids. Now luckily this is the smallest group. You have about 300 kids, roughly, in your K-8 building. This is 2% of 300 that fall into this third category. And these are the kids who like to inflict pain on people. They enjoy it. And they do it chronically, and they do it habitually. And these kids, these 6 in your building, are engaging in something called a bullying pattern. Now, what's interesting about this is that the first 2 groups, the ones that are showing off, trying to get attention, and the ones who are kind of impulsive, they're fairly easily modifiable. The first group is very easily modifiable. You give them a couple consequences, you have a couple chats with them as an adult to a kid, and they have a conscience. They stop. Second group of kids, the impulsive kids, they need a little social skills training, a little anger management, and a few consequences, and they stop. This third group, these 6 kids, they're the hardest to modify because it becomes such an entrenched behavioral pattern that it's hard for them to change. But if we don't work on changing those 6 kids, I'll tell you what will happen. They'll grow up and they'll stay right here in Niles. They're not going anyplace else. And they will negatively impact 1,000 people in their adult life. They will negatively impact their neighbors, their family, the people they work with, when their kids start going to school, their kids' school, their church, any kind of civic organization they're involved in, they will negatively impact 1,000 people. So my job is to try to modify all this behavior, not just the 6 kids who are being, bullies, right? So I guess the way I see it is we need to stop calling everything bullying, because everyone's done something mean at some point in their life. Raise your hand if you've never done anything mean. Right? All of us have brothers and sisters. We've all done something mean at some point, right? But what we really need to do is help all 3 of these groups stop this behavior instead. We need to focus on stopping the mean behavior instead of labeling everything bullying or whatever. So that's the first thing I want to say. The other thing is, there are 3 groups or 3 categories of behaviors that are problematic, but they require completely different responses. The first group of behaviors is what we call the annoying, bugging, bothering behaviors. So if I'm your little brother and I'm going, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, right? Or I'm tapping my pencil, or I'm humming under my breath, or I'm very lightly kicking the back of your chair, right? That's annoying behavior, would you agree? So what's interesting is little tiny kids, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd graders, they think everything's mean. So if someone's annoying them, they think someone's being mean to them. So the first thing I did today with the kids is to differentiate between annoying behavior and mean behavior, okay? So if someone's bugging you, the first thing you have to do, I told them, is put on your poker face. Because if you're looking like you're upset or frustrated, they're going to keep doing this to you. So you put your poker face on, and you say 5 words in your most respectful, polite, matter-of-fact voice. And here they are. That's bothering me, please stop. If the person stops, you say thank you right away. Not every kid stops, though. Would you agree about that? So I tell the kids, if you got one of those kids who doesn't stop, what you need to do is count to 5 in your head. But don't sit there and glare at the kid like this while you're counting to 5. Because if you do this, they're going to keep on doing that annoying thing. So you look away like you're thinking, and you give this kid a chance to wind down. Because sometimes it takes a couple of seconds for that annoying kid to wind down their behavior. And as I'm counting to 5 and looking away, I'm counting like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, not like this. 1, 2, 3, 5. That's too fast. So I count slowly. If I get to 4 Mississippi and this person stops, I say thanks right away. Well, let's say you get all the way to 5 and this kid is still doing that annoying behavior. So then what I do is I turn to this kid again and I say it a 2nd time. That's bothering me, please stop. I don't change my voice tone like, I've already told you once, that's bothering me, please stop it. The 2nd time I say it exactly the same way as the 1st time. Polite, respectful, matter-of-fact, calm. That's bothering me, please stop. If the person stops, I say thanks. If not, you look away, you count to 5. Now if you've asked them twice and you've counted twice, the 3rd time you don't say the same thing. 3rd time you look at the kid in the eye and you say, stop or I'll report it. If they stop, you say thanks. If they don't, you go get help. Now here's the wrong way to get help from an adult. And I show the kids, don't do it this way. So your name is? Kathy. Let's say you're the teacher. Here's the wrong way to get help. Kathy is tapping her pencil on her chair, and I don't like it. Well, if you say it like that, you know what the teacher's going to say? Well, did you ask Kathy to stop? I mean, that's what I'd say if I was a teacher. So the right way to get help is, I've asked Kathy 3 times nicely to stop tapping her chair with her pencil, and she won't stop. It's really bugging me. Can you please help me? That sounds different to a teacher. That's saying, I've tried 3 times to solve this small problem. It's not getting solved. I'm about ready to blow my top. I need your help before I do. Can you please help me? So teaching the kids how to handle annoying behavior is the first thing. But then there's a second category of behavior, which is what we call normal pure conflict. How many of you are in a relationship right now with a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend, or raise your hand if you're in some type of relationship? How many of you have a perfect relationship where you never have a problem, you never have a disagreement, you never have a misunderstanding? Anybody? Conflicts and disagreements are a normal part of any relationship. And the same thing with kids. Even best friends can get into a disagreement or have a conflict. So as long as that behavior, that normal conflict, does not escalate into name-calling or yelling or swearing or giving someone the silent treatment or talking about them mean behind their back, as long as they're able to resolve it without it escalating into that kind of mean behavior, adults shouldn't get involved. It's none of your business. They'll work it out. As long as there's no harm being done, they will probably learn how to work it out. And if not, you can actually teach them a problem-solving process, and I'll show you that in a minute. If the behavior escalates into mean behavior, however, that normal peer conflict starts to escalate and they're calling each other names, or they're pushing or shoving, or they're deciding to talk nasty about each other behind their back, that's when we want adults to intervene. But first of all, let's talk about how we can help kids resolve conflicts peacefully and positively without it escalating into mean behavior. I mean, wouldn't it be great if adults knew how to do that, right? So one of the things that I talked to the staff about in terms of helping kids resolve that normal conflict is to paint a peace wheel on your playground. 75% of all mean behavior in schools happens at recess, happens on the playground. And so if you have a blacktop, right? You can paint a peace wheel on your playground that has the problem-solving steps built into it. And what happens if you got two kids who are having some type of conflict or a disagreement or misunderstanding, the adult sends them to the peace wheel. And if you're like me, I'm a kinetic learner. I used to be a ballerina before I became a psychologist. I used to dance professionally. And for me, I learn by moving. When I move, I'm learning. And there are a lot of kids like that. They learn through kinetic movement. So what I would have these kids do is each of them would stand in the pie wedge that represents the problem-solving process. And where you start is right here. Name the problem. Once they've both named the problem, you move on to name your feelings. Once they both name their feelings, they say what they want or need from the other person. They brainstorm solutions, they talk it over, they pick a solution together, they try it out. So they're actually physically moving around the peace wheel as they're solving that conflict. Now, a lot of kids get stuck right here where it says brainstorm solutions. So I recommend having a little solution wheel next to the peace wheel that gives them options. I don't know about in Illinois, but I'm from Michigan, and in Michigan, rock, paper, scissors solves a lot of problems. So one of the options I'd have on my solution wheel, which is not up here, but I would put it on there, is rock, paper, scissors. It's sort of like flipping a coin, right? So you give kids options for how to solve that problem. Sometimes it takes too long and they go, let's forget about it, let's just go play. And that's fine, as long as the conflict doesn't escalate into mean behavior. But what if it does? What if it starts to escalate into name-calling or hitting or shouting, swearing, whatever? If there's peer mistreatment involved, and when mean behavior begins to happen, that is a form of peer mistreatment, it is important for adults to sweat the small stuff, to not allow that behavior to go on. And my philosophy is zero indifference to cruelty. Now, this is not a zero tolerance program, because when I think of the words zero tolerance program, what I picture in my head is, okay, 5-year-old brings a knife to school to cut his birthday cake, and he gets expelled for having a weapon. That's a zero tolerance program. Zero indifference to cruelty means if you raise your hand and you make a mistake and the kid sitting next to you points at you and laughs or rolls his eyes and goes, I'm not going to let that go as an adult. I'm going to stop that. Or if I ask the two of you to be partners together, and as soon as he sits down, you move your chair over and groan and go, oh, because you don't want to work with him, and you make a face at him and you move your scoot this way, I'm not going to let that go. If I see you come up at the playground and ask a bunch of girls to play and they all run away from you and they give you the silent treatment or what we call the cold shoulder or shunning, I'm not going to let that go. Even though nothing was said, no pushing or shoving occurred, these subtle little behaviors need to be addressed. And when I say zero indifference to cruelty, I mean these little tiny things, we just can't let that go. Can't let kids do this kind of disrespectful, mean stuff to each other. All right, so we're going to sweat the small stuff. Now, because we're not going to call everything bullying, what are we going to call it? All of a sudden I'm getting hot. You guys getting hot? It must just be me. All right. So if we're not going to call it bullying, we're going to call it something. So what I call it, for kindergarten through 8th grade, I call it mean behavior. If I'm working with high school kids, I call it peer mistreatment. And we want to have a broad definition which allows school staff to intervene early and often, to intervene at what psychologists call opening moves. Well, what's an opening move? That quick, dirty look, that quick put down, that quick, rude gesture that not only have the potential to lead to emotional harm, but can very quickly lead to physical altercations between kids. So having this broad definition allows the staff so much latitude to sweat the small stuff. So it's any look, gesture, word, or action that hurts a person's body, feelings, friendships, reputation, or property. Now with the little tiny kids who can't read, I do a pictorial version. This is what mean behavior is. And I would also include on there a definition of nice behavior. In fact, today with the little kids, I showed them this poster. This is from another school, but your school's going to be creating something like this. And if you see the black line here, this is called below the line behavior, which is not allowed and will get you in trouble and will make you lose friends. And this is above the line behavior. So nice behaviors are the kind looks, the kind gestures, the kind words, and we talked about what that looked like today. Kind actions. And then the below the line behavior are the mean behaviors, and I defined those for the kids too. I said, all of this counts, and I showed them what I meant. It's interesting. One of the things I did with the really young kids is I talked about being a bossy pants. And I said, how many of you ever had a friend say, if you don't do what I say, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. Or if you don't play what I want at recess, I'm never going to play with you at recess again. Or maybe they've said, you can only have one friend and I'm it. And if you play with any of these other kids, then you cannot be my best friend anymore because you only have one friend and I'm it, I'm the only one. And I talked about how that's basically a form of emotional blackmail. That you're trying to manipulate people into doing what you want. That's a form of mean behavior too. We talked about all sorts of things today. So your kids maybe came home and talked a little bit about all the different ways that people are sometimes mean. So I want to talk for just a second about something called horseplay, because we talked about this today too. And I need a male volunteer. Who would like to help me? Don't all jump up at once. A male volunteer. Who wants to help me? Okay, come on up here. Awesome. All right, come over here and stand on the side of me. What's your name, sir?
Michael.
Michael. Now, Michael, I want you to pretend that I am the biggest, tallest boy in your class, and I think it's funny and fun to put smaller boys in headlocks, because I like it. So today it's going to be your turn. So I want you to lean over, I'm going to get you in headlock. All right? So get him in headlock. Start giving him noogies. Oh, your hair's so soft. Creepy, I know, sorry. So I started giving him noogies. As I'm giving him noogies, I'm saying, hey, Michael, I'm just messing with you, man. I'm just playing, man. I'm having some fun. Just horse around. Just having some fun. Now, I'm having a blast. Do you think Michael's enjoying this? Michael, do you like this?
No.
No. Or if I'm another boy and I come up to him and I go whack in the arm and say, hey, man, I'm just messing with you. I'm just playing. And now with the little tiny kids, I talked about being a ninja. Like he's the good ninja and I'm the bad ninja. And I think it's okay to kick him and karate chop him and jump on his back and knock him over, right? Or if I'm an older kid, I think it's okay to kid him in the private parts as a joke. You know, or maybe twist his nipples, woohoo, yeah, right? Because, you know, just goofing around, right? So goofing around or playing that may include pushing, shoving, grabbing, jumping on, play fighting, purple nurples, that counts too. Mean or rude gestures, name calling, rude remarks in which there appears to be no intention to hurt. But it is very possible that body or feelings will be hurt. So the first reason for staff to intervene with horseplay, and for you too, is even if you're going along with this, let's say I'm the alpha male in 8th grade and I got you in headlock and I'm just goofing around and you're going along with it because you want to be part of that group. Would you be secretly relieved if an adult stopped that behavior?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, so that'd be the first thing. If you don't really like it, but you're going along to get along. Secondly, is it possible that this looks like horseplay but is not? Could this actually be mean behavior or even a bullying pattern in disguise? Yeah, and adults are not always clear what's going on. The third reason is that does this often escalate between kids? So maybe I get him in a headlock, he doesn't like it, he starts pushing me, I start shoving him, pretty soon we're going at it in earnest and we're pounding each other. Because I've seen that happen lots. The fourth reason we want adults to intervene is, let's say I'm pushing and shoving him and you're the teacher and you walk on by and I'm just, you know, you think, hey, we're friends. So you benignly walk by and you smile at us kind of like, oh, isn't that cute, they're good friends. And you do nothing. And all of you are kids. You're all watching the teacher walk by and do nothing. What message have I sent? Or she sent. This is acceptable behavior. It's going to increase aggression in the whole school. And tomorrow, when the teacher intervenes with you because you hit her, you're going to say, well, you don't like me. You're not fair. Yesterday they were hitting and pushing. You didn't even do anything. You just walked on by. You don't like me. right? So we really want staff to intervene, even at this level, at horseplay. And that's why horseplay is on your consequence rubric for mean behavior. Now, thanks, you can sit down. I want to say that I grew up with brothers, 3 of them. Yeah, you did a good job. And I don't have anything against horseplay per se. Sometimes I think that's the way boys bond with each other. But there's a time and a place. You wouldn't do it in church, right? Not okay to do it in the hallway during passing time. Not okay to do it at recess at school either. There's a time and a place, and school isn't it. Now, there are some kids who are not physically aggressive with the horseplay, but who are verbally aggressive with horseplay. And there are 4 examples of mean verbal horseplay that I want to share with you. And there are kids in every school I've ever worked in who are experts at insulting people and then pretending they didn't mean it. So let me give you some examples. Here's the first one. No offense, but you have a nose like a ski slope, man. It is huge. You could drive a truck through those nostrils. No offense, but your breath smells like garbage. No offense, but nobody likes you at this school and they want you to go someplace else. No offense, but you get a little chubby, don't you think? Now, how many of you heard a kid say no offense, but, and then say something offensive? Do adults sometimes do that? Yeah. Yeah. Example number 2. You're stupid. Just kidding. Well, you are kind of a moron. JK. You are so weird. Just kidding. You're a brat. Just kidding. All right? So have you heard kids say things like that? Just kidding? That counts. The third thing that counts is called, now I don't mean to hurt your feelings or anything, but I don't want you for my science partner because you're really terrible at science. I don't mean to hurt your feelings or anything, but please don't go out for sports this fall because you really stink at all sports. And you know what, at recess, please don't be on my team. I don't mean to hurt your feelings or anything, but you're really bad. And then there's, you're a freak. Just saying. Just being honest. You're ugly. Just saying. Just being honest. You're stupid. Psych. Have you guys heard kids say that, right? So I let the kids know today that all of that counts. Now the middle schoolers are going like, okay, because they're saying it to each other. Would you agree? That's kind of the way sometimes they interact with each other. But it's very important that schools intervene at this level. I told the staff a story when I came and did the workshop in June. I had a school that developed this beautiful rubric, but they didn't put horseplay on it. And they were still having kids while they were in the hallway passing, still jumping on each other's backs, pushing each other into lockers as a joke. And this was between friends, calling each other names. The girls, this was a junior high school, they were calling each other the B word, or calling each other ho, as a joke, right? And so I said, you need to put horseplay on your rubric. And they did. And the first day, they had horseplay on the rubric. They had 27 horseplay write-ups. The second day, they had 4. The third day, they had 1. And the fourth day, they had zippo. Within 4 days, the tenor of their hallway behavior had completely shifted, had completely changed. Kids were no longer jumping on each other's backs or calling each other names as a joke. It stopped. Guys were no longer twisting each other's nipples as a joke. It just stopped. It was done. So it's important that we intervene at this level too, because there's a lot of mean behavior that goes under the guise of horsing around. All right? Now, another way that we want to intervene, and this is one of the things I talked to the staff about. You might have noticed that staff have lanyards. This 15-second intervention, do you have yours on right now? Yeah. It has the 15-second intervention on it. And basically, this is how the staff is sweating the small stuff. If a kid is doing something even mildly aggressive, they're pulling the kid aside privately. They're not going to try to do this to embarrass them in front of anybody, so they pull the kid aside privately and they say, I saw you do whatever it is they saw him do. Hit, call a name, leave somebody out, move their chair away, roll their eyes, whatever they saw them do. And then they say, that was me. I wouldn't let someone do that to you at our school, and that's not okay, you did it to them. We don't do that here. That needs to stop. So they're going to be intervening with this stuff. We would want parents to intervene as well. So it's going to be a slight modification for parents, because obviously you're not going to say, we don't do that here. You could say, we don't do that in my house, in my van, in my yard. So we want you to intervene when you see stuff going on as well. Whether it's your kid, somebody else's kid, it shouldn't be happening in your house, your van, your yard. Now, one thing you might add to this little 15-second intervention is the question at the end. What are you going to do to make this right to the kid you just pulled aside? And what do most kids say they'll do to make it right? Say, I'm sorry. So one of the things we talked about today with some of the kids is a true apology as opposed to a fake apology. A fake apology, even if something is an accident, only makes that person mad and makes the relationship harder to heal. So here are some fake apologies. Sorry. And then there's sorry. That's a sibling one, right? And then there's the, oh, I'm sorry that your feelings got hurt by that. I'm sorry you're so sensitive. In other words, translation, you're a crybaby, right? That's the translation. Or then there's the mock concern. Oh, I'm sorry that the ball hit you on the head. Maybe I should call the ambulance. All right, so basically mocking you because you're upset. And then there's the, I said I'm sorry, can we move on please? One of those kind of sorries. So what we need to do is not ever force an apology, because when you force an apology, that's exactly the kind of apology you get, or sorry, that kind of thing. But if a kid truly wants to make amends, they truly want to make it right, then I would say coach them through a true apology. And a real apology has 4 steps. And I'll tell you something, adults do not know how to apologize either. Would you agree? So this is a skill all of you can practice along with your children, right? And the way it goes is this. The first step in the 4-step process is describe what you did. I hid you, I left you out of the group, I told a lie about you behind your back, I told people not to hang out with you, I told your secret. Admit what you did. Just say what you did. That's the first step. Second step is describe how you think you made the person feel. I know when I shared your secret, it really was embarrassing. I know that it made you feel left out when I didn't invite you to my sleepover. I know that it made you mad when I shoved you at recess when I lost my temper. And then the third part is, tell them what you wish you had done and what you'll do next time to make it right. Boy, I really wish I had waited before I talked to you because I was really mad and I said some things I didn't mean. I really wish I kept my mouth shut and hadn't told your secret to everybody, and next time I'm going to keep my mouth shut when you tell me something private. I really wish I invited you to the sleepover, and next time when I have a party, I'm definitely inviting you. And I know that that was really hurtful. And then the fourth part is, apologize sincerely. I'm really sorry, and I'm going to try hard not to do that again. And I hope you can forgive me. Not, can you forgive me? Because that's asking for instant forgiveness. But if I say, I hope you can forgive me, and then you know what that kid does? They close their lips. They wait. They look contrite. And if I wait 10 seconds and I just apologize like that, what are you likely to say at that point when I'm looking quite contrite and I'm looking at you like, I really messed up here and I just said all that? Well, how might you respond?
I do forgive you.
Yeah. Now, what I tell kids to say is, don't say it's okay. So if you said it's okay, I always correct kids like, nope, it's not okay, but it's okay to say, I do forgive you. Or if you're not ready, say, I'm not ready to forgive you yet. I'm still kind of mad. I need to think about that. And then my job is to say, okay, I accept that, right? Wouldn't the world be better if we all knew how to apologize, right? And this kind of apology really heals the relationship. It really heals the relationship rather than make it, patchy, right? Okay. So here's the other thing. If we want to help kids stop being mean, we have to help make people harder to hurt. And there are 2 basic ways to make people harder to hurt. The first is to have consequences for acts of aggression. And that's where your consequence rubric comes in. And you've all seen the rubric that your school developed after the training, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about the rubric in a minute. The second thing is to beef up adult supervision during high-risk times. What are the highest risk times at school? Recess followed by what? Lunch followed by hallway passing, waiting outside to get picked up, before or after school activities. Those are all high-risk times. So anytime we can beef up adult supervision, that's good. And Elise and her staff are going to be working on a plan, I think on Friday, to look at what are the hot spots. She's taking data right now where the mean behavior seems to be happening the most. So she's trying to collect physically in the building, in the buildings, where the hot spots are. And then the staff's going to try to beef up adult supervision. Here's the other thing. If Elise is asking for volunteers to help at lunch or at recess, please volunteer, because the more eyes on kids, the less likely they are to be aggressive. Dan Obeas, who's a psychologist who's done a lot of writing in this area, said the most effective deterrent to aggressive behavior is adult presence, adult authority, and adult intervention. So if they're asking you for help, please volunteer, because we need more eyes on kids in these high-risk areas during these hotspot times, okay? So let's talk for just a second about this rubric. And did you happen to bring the rubric with you? Don't worry about it, it's okay. It's all right. But anyway, a consequence rubric has consequences that are predictable, inevitable, consistent, and gradually escalating as a kid continues to make bad choices. And there are some advantages to having a consequence rubric in your school. Here's the first one. Let's say that I hit you and you hit me back. And let's say this is the fourth time let's say that I'm the golden child of the school. My mom and dad are like one of the most important parents in the parish, and maybe, I have lots of pull, and my parents have a lot of pull, and so I'm like the golden child. And with a consequence rubric, if I hit you and you hit me back, and this is the first time for both of us, we're going to get the same exact consequence. So with a rubric, there are no perceived injustices. Parents think it's fair, staff think it's fair, students think it's fair. Now let's just say that I hit you, and this is the fourth time that I've hit you, and you finally get sick and tired of it, and you wallop at me back for the first time. You're going to get a consequence, and I'm going to get a consequence from this rubric, but mine's going to be different than hers. Now let's say that my mother is a classic enabler. So she calls the school and she says, well, that is not fair. They both hit, and Marcia got a much more significant consequence. Well, all the school has to say is this is Marcia's fourth time on the rubric, and this is the other child's first time on the rubric. And the consequences are different for the first time as opposed to the fourth time. And typically what people say when they hear that is, oh. What do you say, right? Another advantage is that pre-planned consequences take considerably less time. And time is the most precious resource in schools. And pre-planning allows the adult staff to stay very calm while they talk to the kid about their bad behavior. If the adult stays calm, the kid has to focus on their bad choice. But as soon as the adult loses their cool and starts to get mad, the kid's not thinking about what they did anymore. They're focusing on the adult's anger. And that's true for parents as well. I always say to kids and adults, he who angers you controls you, right? So you gotta stay calm and cool, and this rubric helps adults at school stay calm and cool while you talk to your kid, which allows your kid to focus on what they did. One of the best advantages is that the consequences don't come from the adult. They come from the rubric, which allows the adult to preserve their relationship with the kid. So if this is the second time you've hit somebody, we're looking at the rubric together to see what the consequence is for the second time for hitting. I'm not giving you the consequence. We're looking right here together, and you're reading what the consequence is, which allows me to preserve my relationship with you. I'd like to show you a little video clip. And in this clip, you're going to get a chance to see Stan Davis, who is the guy who developed this approach about 15 years ago. It's being used successfully across the country, K-12. The rubric is only one of 17 core components that I shared with the staff in June. And the schools that have implemented all 17 of the core components that I talked about in the training have seen anywhere from a 50 to an 80% reduction in all mean behavior within 2 years. You can't get better than that. That's as good as you're going to get, 50 to 80% reduction. And part of it is this rubric. So let me show you a little video clip. Okay, I don't know if this cord's going to reach. Put it down.
There is some good news about bullying and social cruelty. Some schools have found ways to reduce it a lot. And many say the way to make schools kinder and safer places is to start fighting social cruelty early.
How did you get hurt?
I pushed TJ and then he kicked and smacked me, and that's how I got bleeding.
Is that true?
I started first.
Here in Sydney, Maine, the Bean Elementary School believes kindergarten kids should be taught to take responsibility for what they do.
Look at the side. And look at his mouth. How did that happen? TJ, how did that happen?
The philosophy at this school is, don't let any incident slide.
Did you hit someone?
Just packed him.
Every incident must have a consequence.
How do we make this right?
All the consequences are clearly outlined so every kid understands. Bad behavior leads to predictable punishments, usually loss of a privilege. For hitting,
You lose one recess, so you can think about it, right?
There's a need for a kid to run into a wall, or the behavior isn't going to change. It's too much fun.
Stan Davis runs the anti-bullying program at the Bean School, which also teaches kids how to patch things up. The program works, says this boy, who says he used to be a bully.
I think before I react. It's better, and detention is no fun.
You got to change the whole system the kid's in. Just like if you wanted to get rid of smallpox, you had to inoculate instead of treat one case at a time.
Okay, so, I just think that kid's a riot. I think before I react. And there's a separate rubric for DK through 3rd grade, which is very developmentally based given how old they are, and then there's a 4th through 8th grade rubric in your building. And if you haven't seen that, or you're not quite sure what that is, you could probably call Mrs. Manson and she can send you a copy. And I think that was sent home anyway, right? So everyone has seen that, yep. Okay, now here's something that's kind of interesting. There are certain child-rearing patterns that result in kids being more aggressive than usual. And the first pattern that I want to talk about is called too little love and too much freedom. In other words, there's a disconnect emotionally between the kids and the parent. The parents are not that emotionally connected to the kid. There's not a lot of nurturance, there's not a lot of warmth, there's not a lot of connection. And at the same time, there's a lot of freedom, very little supervision. A perfect example of a parenting pattern like this is, does Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, do those names ring a bell with you? That's the Columbine shooters, right? Dylan Klebold was a depressive, suicidal kid who got sucked in by Eric Harris, who was basically a sociopath. Eric Harris was raised in this kind of a house, where his dad was in the military, he traveled all the time, he was never home, his mom had a high-powered job, she was never home. They were completely disconnected emotionally from their son. Eric had a semi-automatic rifle in his bedroom. Now, how many of you occasionally go into your kid's bedroom to see if something's growing under the bed? I mean, would you know if your kid had a semi-automatic rifle in their room? How disconnected do you have to be not to know that, right? But then there's a second type of pattern that results in aggressive behavior. And often, this first type is a kid who's more physically aggressive, but this second type is even more common. This is what we call too much indulgence and too much freedom. In other words, the kid is treated in their home like they're a little prince or they're a little princess. And no one ever says no. They always get their way. The whole world revolves around this kid. This kid always gets to be first. They always think that their needs take precedence over everybody else's. They have a huge sense of entitlement, which they bring to school. And they think that they're more important than everybody. And basically what's happening is a lot of parents are raising a generation of little narcissists, where they think the world owes them a favor, and everybody should dance to their tune, and they're really the most important person in the entire room. So don't even mess with their needs, because their needs come first. This is very problematic. How many of you know situations where the kids act like they are like the little king or the queen, right? So there's a book out right now. It's the best book on parenting out there. It's fantastic, this book. It's only a little over 100 pages long. It'll take you about an hour to read it if you're a fast reader, maybe 2 hours if you're more of a comprehensive, slower reader. It's called Have the Guts to Do It Right, Raising Grateful and Responsible Children in an Era of Indulgence. And the author, her name is Sherry Muscovitz-Noga. She is a therapist in Novi, Michigan, who's had 35 years of practice working with families and children. And she found more and more in her practice that she was dealing with basic parenting issues where kids were coming into her office and the kids were completely ruling the roost. They were in charge. And some of these kids were 2, and they were in charge of their parents. So if you're only going to read one book this year, this is the book to read. Now, it's interesting. I have 2 grown children, and my oldest just got married about 2 weeks ago. My youngest is in the process of getting engaged. But a lot of them have friends that are married and have children already, or having children, or pregnant for the first time. So this summer and this fall, I've been going to a lot of baby showers. And I like to give baby books for baby showers. You know, Good Night Moon, The Runaway Bunny, you know, Pat the Bunny, all these bunny books, right? You know, the Moo Ba La 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 from Sandra Boynton, or the Going to Bed book by Sandra Boynton. Well, what I've been doing is slipping this book underneath the pile of all the other baby books. And it's so interesting to watch these expectant mothers at these showers, because they're opening these books and they're going, oh, I loved Good Night Moon. Oh, you know, and they're looking at, you know, oh, Cat in the Hat. And then they come to this one, they go, oh. And I just say, you know what? You're going to love this book. And every parent should read this book. Every expectant parent should read this book. So I suggested to Elise that she buy some for her library, and so people can even borrow them. And I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but
not yet, but we can.
But you can. Yep. Okay. Here's the other thing. Children, James Baldwin said this. He said, children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. And so we need to pay attention to our behavior because we're modeling either good or bad choices for kids about how we treat people. And one of the things I want to do right now is just a fun little role play. I want to have a little fun with you. And for this role play, I'm going to demonstrate 3 choices that parents have when they witness mean behavior. It's right smack in front of their face, and 3 different ways that they can respond. The 3 most common ways that parents respond. So, I would like 6 women to jump into my van, and I'm going to be a mom taking a bunch of 6th or 7th graders to a football game. So, anybody in here have a preteen that wants to help me out? I need 6 women to jump into my van for a second. We're going to have a little fun.
I have a preteen.
All right, you're my daughter, you're riding shotgun.
She has one too.
All right. Anybody else have a preteen?
She has one too.
Come on. Yep, let's go. Come on. You don't have to do much. It's very low risk. It's very low risk. You hardly have to do anything. It's going to be very easy. Come on, let me have some more women come up here. Thank you. Let's have at least 2 more. You're riding shotgun. So yeah. You're here. All right, I need 2 more. 1 more. At least 1 more.
Do I have to have preteen? Can I just go?
No, you can come up. That's fine. All right, now. So I'm going to drive them to the gate. And let's pretend you're all 7th graders, because a lot of this mean relational aggression, especially between girls, peaks in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It gets worse in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So you're going to start talking about this imaginary girl who just transferred into your school named Joanna. There's no Joanna in here, is there? Okay, never mind. Is there a Maria? Is there a Maria? Okay, no, is there a Susan?
Alicia.
Is there an Alicia? Is there an Alicia anywhere? Okay. Is that a safe name?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So we're going to pretend that Alicia just transferred in to St. John's, right? From some other place. And I want you as 7th grade girls to trash her. Just go at it. When I say go, I'm driving along. Here's the first response that sometimes parents do. Go.
Did you see what she was wearing for the football game?
So
gross.
gross.
What is so big? I can't believe she thought that shirt matched with those shorts.
Oh, those legs. You know, aren't they so hairy too? My God.
They're way too much fun with this. Now, what am I doing? Ignoring. Now, here's the problem, though. At some level, do they know that I'm listening? So what subtle message have I just given them? This is fine and dandy. You go right ahead. I'm just going to let this happen. This is a mistake, right? So, but here's the second parental response, and I'm hoping none of you do this, but I've seen parents do this. What's her name again? What did we say? Alicia. Alicia? Is that what we said about it? Okay, Alicia. So, watch. You guys talking about that new girl, Alicia, that just came into St. John's? You think she's weird? I met her mother at the Rite Aid. Oh, wow, she is so strange. The Walgreens, you know, the Walgreens? You should have seen what she was buying at the pharmacy. Oh, I think they have lice in that family. Yeah, and the dad has a drinking problem. Oh, yeah, I heard they might be getting a divorce, too. They have way too many kids. They can't even afford that many kids. Now, what you guys are kind of going, oh, but a little uncomfortable tittering laugh, you know, like. But have you ever seen parents do that? Go along with and kind of like egg them on and basically say the same kinds of things. Now, am I modeling bad behavior for you?
Yes.
Am I really giving you permission now? Because you're saying, oh, an adult woman's doing this, this must be okay, right? Now, the third reaction is the one we really want parents to do, and that's this. You know what, guys? I'm feeling really uncomfortable with what you're saying about Alicia. And wow, I wouldn't let anybody talk about you guys the way I'm hearing you talk about Alicia if it was in my van. I wouldn't allow it. And it's not okay right now what's going on either. I don't like it, and I think we need to change the subject to something else. So how do you think we're going to do in this football game?
Good.
Now, what I've done is I've drawn the line in the sand. Not in my van. Now, my daughter, my 7th grade daughter, is going, oh my God, my mother! She's so embarrassing, I can't take her anywhere. And you're like dying right now. And you're like so worried that I'm going to wreck your relationship with all your friends. So what I would probably do later is say, you know what? Just blame me. Say to your friends, I have no control. She just does these things. I have no control over my mother. And that way it's my problem, and you're off the hook. But at the same time, am I letting you know, not going to happen here? And wouldn't it be great if all parents were more willing to do that? Yeah. We need to stick our necks out just a little bit and stop thinking to ourselves, oh, I don't want to get involved. I don't want that parent calling me. It's probably none of my business. I'm just going to say, it's not my kid. I'm not going to say anything. All right? We need to stop doing that. We need to get more involved and make sure that if we're the adult seeing something, whether they're our kids or not, we stop that behavior if it's mean, right? All right, thanks. You can all sit down. I'll tell you a funny story involving that. I was at my daughters went to West Catholic High School in Grand Rapids, and they were both in the band. One of them was a drum major, the other one was a clarinet section leader. And I'll never forget, because the band parents, they sit right behind the band, of course, and the band parents are there for intermission. They're not necessarily there for the football game. They're there to see their kids play in the band, right? And so there's probably at least 40 parents in the band section behind the band, waiting for the intermission to start. And West Catholic's big rival in Grand Rapids is Catholic Central. There's only 2 Catholic high schools in the whole city, and they're the biggest rivals. I don't know why. I think they should be able to get together and be friends, but no, they're all very rivalry, right? So anyway, they were playing Catholic Central, and so for the big West Catholic Central game, they gave all the kids, including the kids in the band, these thunder sticks, I think they're called, where you kind of beat them together and they make noise. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So the seniors were at the back of the band in the bleachers, and some of the freshmen happened to be in the row right under the seniors. So I'm sitting back here, and there's all these parents, these like 40 parents from the band watching, and the seniors start drumming on the heads of the freshmen. And the freshmen are turning around with these, and the thunder sticks aren't hurting them, but it's annoying, right? And so the freshmen are turning around to the seniors and saying, come on, man, stop that. Cut it out, man, I don't like that. And they're kind of trying to laugh it off, but they're not liking it. And the seniors keep doing it. And I can see these freshmen are kind of distressed, right? But they don't know what to do because these are seniors in the band. So I start to clear my throat. My cousin goes, don't you dare. And I said, I'm sorry, I have to. I'm going to have to say something. So I said, hey, seniors, hey. They all turned around. I said, you know what? I'm kind of getting the feeling that the freshmen don't like to have their heads drummed on. So why don't you just knock it off? And they all went, okay. But they were like, you know, but they stopped. Right? They stopped. And my husband said, really? Seriously? You had to do that? But yes, I think I did need to do that. And I think probably the freshmen were glad that I did that. But what was interesting is that the other parents were seeing it too. And they were smiling and laughing, but they were not intervening. And probably maybe they felt uncomfortable. Maybe they felt like, none of my business. I don't want my kid to be embarrassed if I say something. Forget that. Just intervene. Just intervene, right? Now sometimes it blows up in your face. Once I was in Target. You guys have Target here? Okay. So I was in Target and this little 5-year-old came around the corner and he was hitting his little 3-year-old brother on the head. And I couldn't find the parents. I don't know where the parents were. So I just came up to the 5-year-old and I just gently said, hey, honey, you're not allowed to hit in Target. You're not allowed to hit. Well, that's my brother. I said, but you're not allowed to hit in Target. The mother came zooming around the corner. She goes, what are you talking to my kids for, lady? None of your business. My 5-year-old's always hitting my 3-year-old. He has to learn how to get used to it. Butt out! And, you know, I was like, well, I'm sorry. He's not allowed to hit in Target. She goes, well, do you work for Target? No, I don't work for Target. Well, then shut up! She was just really mad. But, you know what? Sometimes it does blow up. But at least the 5-year-old left the 3-year-old alone at that point. He had stopped hitting on him. And even the mother was like in my face. I didn't care. I just am not going to allow that to happen. Right? And I hope that you don't either. Now, let's say that your child is aggressive. How do you know if it's a problem? Because every kid's occasionally mean. Raise your hand if you think you have a kid who occasionally does something mean. Come on. Oh, come on. Let me see the hands. Today I asked the kids that question. It was really interesting. I said, so is it always somebody else who's the mean kid? And they all went, mm-hmm. And then I said, really? None of you have ever done anything mean to anybody? And then they're looking at each other. And I said, come on, I don't see any saints or angels. I see no halos over anybody's head. So finally a few hands start going up. They're looking at each other nervously. I say, okay, brothers and sisters count to. They all go like this. Right? So every kid has admitted, every kid in this building has admitted that they have done something mean. And that's kind of normal. Kids sometimes do something mean. But how do you know if it's problematic? What are the warning signs? What are the red flags? And there are 4 that I just want to list bang, bang, bang for you. The first is, how do they treat their siblings? If they're routinely mean to their siblings, that's a red flag. If they're never nice, if they're always mean, always taunting, always ridiculing, hitting, pushing, that's a red flag. Second red flag is, how do they treat their friends? Like, for example, when their friends are over at your house, how are they talking to their friends? When you're listening in on their phone conversations, are they putting their friends down? When they're all in your van, you're taking them someplace, is your kid being kind of nasty to their friends? If the answer is yes, that's a red flag. If your kid always has to be in charge of the friends and hates it when they're not, that's a red flag. If people feel like they have to walk on tiptoes around your kid sometimes to please them, other kids do, that's a red flag, right? Another red flag is, are school staff concerned? Is your kid's teacher concerned about their social skills and their interaction with other kids, right? They're probably not going to say, your kid's acting like Eddie Haskell. But if they're concerned, you know who Eddie Haskell is? Remember Leave It to Beaver? He was the kid who was like, good morning, Mrs. Cleaver. You look lovely in that dress today. And meanwhile, he's like the terror of the neighborhood. The adults all thought he was such an angel, and all the kids couldn't stand him, right? So if your teachers are telling you that your kid has some problems with this, that's a red flag. And then finally, this is kind of an interesting red flag. When I was growing up, my mother knew all the Eddie Haskells in my neighborhood. She knew who the kids were that were nice and who were the mean kids. My guess is you do too. So if the neighbors do not like your kid at all, that's a red flag. Okay? So let's say you do have a child who's struggling with aggressive behavior. They are being mean. How can you modify that behavior? Well, there are several things you can do. First of all, you need to set firm limits on sibling mean behavior. You as parents have control over all the reinforcers in your house. You have control over the television, the video games, the computer system, all the technology, car keys to take them places. You have control over everything. And so if your kid is routinely mean to their sibling, there need to be consequences for that. They need to somehow make amends. They need to have a timeout. They need to have restriction of informal time with their friends if they're going to be mean to their siblings. Restriction of activities, of use of computer, use of cell phone. There needs to be consequences. And you can do that. Another way that you can modify aggressive behavior is to limit exposure to violent media. There is a direct correlation between how much violent media kids consume, the kind of television programs they're watching, the kind of movies that they're seeing, the kind of video games that they're playing, the kind of music lyrics that they're listening to, what they have access to on the internet. Direct correlation between how aggressive they are and how much violent media they consume. So if I had an aggressive kid, that's the first thing I'd cut out, all violent media exposure. All right? The other thing is providing service learning opportunities. At your church, at St. John's, do you have like Thanksgiving baskets and adopt a family for Christmas opportunities and food drives at Thanksgiving? Do you have that?
Yes.
As much as possible, I would get my aggressive kid involved in service learning opportunities where they are doing something kind and caring for somebody else and they're getting outside of themselves, outside of their own little world of entitlement. That's really important. I would also create daily opportunities for my aggressive kid to do something kind and caring for another kid. I would ask them, we'd create this opportunity and ask my kid to do small favors for people. And as I'm tucking my kid into bed at night, I'd ask them the question, what's one kind thing you did for so-and-so today? Whoever they're having the biggest trouble with, what's one kind thing you did for so-and-so today? And the other thing I would do is really pay attention to my own aggressive behavior. If I'm swearing at my spouse a lot, if I'm yelling and having a tantrum when I'm really upset about something and I'm saying all sorts of mean words to people, if I am yelling at the neighbor, when I go to my kid's game and I'm yelling at the coach because I don't like the call that they made, or I'm arguing with the teacher about a grade in front of my kid and putting the teacher down, those are all ways that kids are learning these aggressive behaviors. So it's not just what the kids are doing, but what they're observing at home too, right? What if your kid is not the mean kid? What if your kid is the target? Well, tomorrow, I'm going to spend some time on what we call target hardening. And there are two different ways of handling yourself if you're on the receiving end of mean behavior that are completely different depending on whether the person who did this to you was a friend or not your friend at all. So you're going to be my best friend. So come up here for just a second. You're my very best friend. Do friends ever do mean things to each other? Yes or no? How many of you have a kid who has a friendship in their life that looks like this? That friend is nice to your kid one day, and then mean the next. And then nice, and then mean. Nice, mean, nice, mean. And you never know from one day to the next how this kid's going to treat your kid. How many have a friendship like that in your family, right? Okay. So you're one of those kids. Nice, mean, nice, mean. If I never tell you that I don't like what's going on, there's a name for me. Doormat. What do you do with a doormat? Step on it. You walk all over it. You wipe your feet on it. We don't want our kids to be doormats. So what I need to do is learn how to say something to you when you're saying something or doing something hurtful that's kind of matter of fact, but let you know I don't like it, that I'm not a doormat. So why don't you say to me something like, that's the ugliest dress or ugliest pair of shoes, or your hair looks terrible. Say something really mean to me right now, and let's pretend we're best friends. What's your first name? Julie. Julie, go.
That is the worst outfit I've ever seen in my life.
Wow. I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I would never say that to you, and I don't really like that you said it to me. I don't think friends should say that stuff to each other, frankly. I just don't think it's cool. So now that you know it's kind of bugging me, can you think about it? I didn't really like it. Every kid could say, I didn't like that. I wouldn't do that to you. Please don't do that to me. Friends don't treat each other that way. Can you think about it? So if you're my friend, I might do that. Now what if we've had several of these conversations, and you keep saying this stuff to me, and you keep treating me poorly, even though we've had these conversations, and I've told you I didn't like it. Well, then there's 3 choices kids make. And 2 of them are completely wrong. All right? The first one is this. I'm just going to take your arm, all right?
Put up and shut up. Allow this person to abuse you. Don't ever say anything. Just let them do whatever they want. The relationship's totally on this person's terms, and I have to take it and take it. And when she's nice to me, I get this little crumb of affection. That's great. And when she's mean, I just have to just pretend it doesn't bother me, and I just hang on to the relationship for dear life, and pretty soon my self-esteem is down the toilet. How many know kids who hang on for dear life? Now here's the problem. If we're 9 or 10, guess who I'm going to date when I get into high school and to college? Abusers, absolutely, because in my mind, abuse and love and intimacy all go together. Because girls especially learn a lot from their relationships with their girlfriends. They learn about love and intimacy and reciprocity. And if I learn that love and meanness go together, that's who I'm going to date. I'm going to date the jerks in high school that are going to abuse me and in college. And maybe I'm even going to marry someone like that. All right? So that's very dangerous to let that person hang on to the relationship no matter what. And even boys sometimes will just take it and not do anything about it. The second mistake that kids make when they've got this nice, mean relationship, and I've talked to you several times, it's not changing, and parents are the ones that tell kids this is a good idea. What I'm going to do next is a terrible idea. So this is the second option. Completely and just abruptly from one day to the next, sever the relationship. Have nothing more to do with her. And if she even tries to talk to me the next day, I walk away, I pretend I don't hear her, I roll my eyes if she says anything, I give her the silent treatment, and I have absolutely nothing to do with her from one day to the next. I end the relationship. That's a problem, because she knows me really well. And what are you going to do with all the things you know about me if I completely, from one day to the next, have nothing more to do with you? You're going to tell everybody everything you know about me. You're going to exploit all my secrets, and then everyone's going to be laughing at me. You make a terrible enemy because you know me so well. So that's a really bad piece of advice, to tell them to end the relationship abruptly. So this is what you do instead. You can just sit there for a second. I'm going to use you in a minute, Julie. Can everybody see this okay? All right. The bullseye are the people in your kid's life who would take a bullet for them. Their mom, their dad, their grandparents. These are the people who love them now. They're going to love them 30 years from now. That's the bullseye. The first ring right here, this is the best friend ring. Most kids only have one person in their best friend ring. Maybe 2 at the most, but usually 1. Julie, that's where you were. You were in my best friend ring. This is my friend ring. Most kids have a lot more friends than best friends, and they hang out with them at school and outside of school. This is the classmate ring. You're friendly to them at school, you chit-chat before class starts, you may tell them a joke or two, you share materials willingly, but you don't really hang out with them outside of school. You may be their Facebook friend, but you're not going to Facebook chat with them very much. These people used to be close to your kid, but they're not anymore. This is their cousin who lives in Florida, and they only see that cousin once every 4 years at Christmas for 2 days, and then they don't see that kid ever again for 4 more years. Or maybe this is the kid who used to live across the street from you, but they moved to Arkansas 2 years ago and you haven't seen them since. They're not that important in your kid's life. And these people are even less important. These are the people behind the meat market at Meijer when you go, when your kid goes with you to buy some meat, and the person behind the market says hi to your kid. They're pretty irrelevant. All right? So, you've been nice, mean. I've talked to you several times, said I don't really like what's going on, I wouldn't do it to you, please don't do it. You keep doing it. So what I'm going to do, besides hanging on for dear life and letting you abuse me or ending it, I'm going to bump you out a ring, but I'm going to do it in my head. 4th graders will always say, well, do you tell them you're bumping them out a ring? No, you just do it. You know, 4th graders always think you have to tell them. Well, I'm going to tell them I'm bumping them. No, you don't tell them. You know, it's in your head. So if you're in my best friend ring, I'm going to bump you to my friend ring. If you're in my friend ring, I'm bumping you to my classmate ring. And this is what it looks like behaviorally. So come up here again, Julie. If you're my best friend, I'm going to sit right next to you at lunch and talk mostly to you. If in my mind I bumped her to my friend ring, I'm going to sit one person down from her at the same table and I'll chat with you and I'll be friendly, and if you laugh, say something funny, I'll laugh. But I'm going to talk to everybody, not just you. If you're my best friend, I'm going to tell you the juicy stuff, like who I have a secret crush on in 7th grade.
If I bumped into my friend ring, I'll tell you whether I love or hate Lady Gaga, or love or hate Justin Bieber, or what I'm going to do this weekend. But I'm not going to tell you the juicy stuff that my mom and dad are fighting, or that my uncle has a drinking problem, or any of the juicy stuff that I would tell my best. I'm not doing that. So what I'm doing is starting to create a little distance, right? If you're my best friend and if I have a sleepover birthday, I'm definitely inviting her. And I'm putting my sleeping bag right next to hers. But if I bumped her to my friend ring, I'm inviting you to my party for sure. But I'm putting my sleeping bag by you, and I'll be really friendly to you at my party, but I'm going to talk to everybody else too. Now here's where it gets tricky. If you're in my friend ring, and I bumped you to my classmate ring, the next day, I will be friendly to you at school. If we sit next to each other in math class, I'll chit-chat before class starts. You ask me a question about the homework, I'll tell you what I know. I'll share my materials willingly. If you say something funny in class, I'll laugh at your joke. I'll be friendly. But I'm not going to go out of my way to try to talk to you a lot outside of class. I'm not going to go out of my way to call you after school and try to hang out. I'm not going to Facebook chat with you. I'm going to very gradually and very slowly begin to back off this relationship. So we're spending less and less time together, but I'll be cordial, I'll be polite, I'm not going to be mean to you, but I'm not going to go out of my way to try to get really close to you either. Does that make sense to people?
Yes.
How many of you in your life had to bump somebody out of ring? How many had to bump a relative out of ring? Right? So this is a skill that adults use too. So that's what you're going to do if you're the target of mean behavior by a close friend. But what if Julie is not my friend at all? Let's say she doesn't even like me. So that's a completely different strategy if the person who's being mean to your kid isn't your friend, your kid's friend at all. Let me just say this, thanks so much. There are 3 reactions that kids must not give if the person who's being mean to them is not their friend. And these 3 reactions, I call them the kisses of death. If you do any one of these 3 things, you're toast, and that person's going to keep messing with you. The first kiss of death is this: call me a loser, watch what I do. How do I look right now? Like I'm sad, like I'm crushed, like I'm defeated. Huge mistake. Have I just given her all my power? Now I'll tell kids, it is fine to feel sad, it is normal to feel sad. I'm not telling you to try not to feel sad. I'm saying it's fine to feel sad. But you have to be a good actor or a good actress. You cannot let this kid who doesn't like you see for a second that you were upset, because they're going to keep doing it to you because they're getting power from that. The second reaction is more of something that boys do more than girls. Pretend we're both boys. Oh, you don't have to pretend, but I'm going to pretend. Okay, call me a loser and I'm a boy. Go. Loser. I am not a loser, but shut your big mouth. I'm sick of you. Shut up. Now I'm not sad. How am I acting now? Now here's the problem with being mad. I said earlier, he who angers you controls you, calm is strength, and as soon as I lose my cool, who did I hand my power to? He's totally in control. He's like the puppeteer and I'm the puppet. He's pulling my string, I'm dancing to his tune. He's totally got the power. And he's going to think, that was fun. You see that kid go off? I'm doing that again. That was awesome. That's what you're going to think, right? So showing that anger, huge mistake. Now the third mistake is to act all freaked out and scared. Like if you came up to me and you pushed me and I start going, ah, and I start running away, I'm toast if you don't like me. And this actually happened to me when I was in 3rd grade. I was walking home from school with my best friend, Mary Ponitowski. And we were walking by this kid's house named Craig Smith. He was a 5th grader. He went to a public school, we went to Catholic school. He got home 10 minutes before we crossed his path. So we're walking by, he's looking out his picture window. He sees these 2 little 3rd grade girls walking by his house. He decides he's going to scare us. So he comes out of his house, he goes, I'm going to get you girls. And I went like this. And I started to run for home as fast as I could. Now Mary, she had 3 older brothers, and she wasn't afraid of anything. She planted her feet, and she went like this. I mean, in her mind, she was thinking, seriously, you're going to chase me? Oh, brother. She didn't say a word. She just looked at him like, you've lost your mind, Craig. And then finally, she kind of just went like, shh. And she just kind of started walking home like, no big deal. Well, he took one look at me, running like a mad woman, and saw Mary just looking like you're ridiculous. Who did he start to chase? Yeah, now here's the problem. For 2 years after that, he chased me every single time he saw me in the neighborhood, and he called me names every single time he saw me. And for 2 years, until finally my brother, who was in high school, had a little chat with him. And then he stopped. He stopped picking on me after that, because my brother Alan said, "You're going to leave her alone, you're going to be sorry, Craig." But my brother decided to let me experience this for about 2 years before he decided to intervene, because he thought it would toughen me up, right? Yeah. So anyway, we want to make sure that kids who are being picked on by people who are not their friends are not showing vulnerability, because kids can smell vulnerability like sharks can smell blood in the water. They can tell so quickly. So what I'm going to do with your kids tomorrow is I'm going to teach them how to handle a friend who's being mean, and I'm going to teach them how to be a hard target to pick on. Now there are a whole variety of skills that are target hardening skills. I didn't make any of these up. Not one. Every single one of these target hardening skills came from kids over the last 20 years who have used these in real situations that have resulted in a positive outcome for them, have made them, people leave them alone, all right? And one of the ways, I'm not going to show you all the strategies, but I'll show you a couple. One of the ways for handling, especially verbal teasing, is to laugh it off. How many of you in your real life have ever used your sense of humor to laugh off something that was happening that was mean? Just laughed it off. How many have ever done that in real life? It makes you a hard target to pick on because they're expecting an upset. So I'm going to give you some of the humorous comebacks that are said in a very playful, lighthearted way, all right, that kids have taught me over the years. So I'm going to point to you, and you're going to call me a loser, or a freak, or a moron, whatever, okay? And I'll just give you some of the humorous comebacks. And it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Okay.
Loser.
Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Freak.
Hey, I'll take that as a compliment.
Loser.
Excellent insult. Well done.
Loser.
Oh my gosh, no one cares. You've been drinking the Haterade or what?
Loser.
Well, that was kind of awkward. Wow, interesting, sweet. I mean, so there's a zillion of these where you just kind of smile and you laugh it out. And that person may like, because you didn't get upset. They're like, oh, you didn't get upset. So maybe they're going to pick on somebody else because your kid didn't get all bent out of shape. Now, there are times when I don't want kids to use a humorous comeback. Even if it's done very playfully and lightheartedly. Sometimes if you do it with an older kid, they think you're being sarcastic. So I'll say if it's an older kid, don't even try to use a humorous comeback. Just use that with kids your age and younger. But if they're saying something mean and they're older, use a neutral comeback. So let's pretend you're all older than me. Call me a loser.
Loser.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Loser.
Good to know how you see it.
Weirdo.
You're welcome to your opinion.
Dork.
That's your thought.
Loser.
You think what you think, I'll think what I think.
Loser.
We'll have to disagree on that. So it's real calm, very matter of fact, not like a man. We'll have to disagree on that, right? And if I can walk away and start talking to somebody else at that point, so I'm ignoring you at that point, that's even better. But I can't walk away like this because what's wrong with this? Yeah, I have to walk away with my shoulders down, my chin straight ahead, calm, confident, and go start talking to somebody else like, I don't have time for this nonsense. And then there's what they call the who cares comebacks. And the way I explain this to kids, I'll say, let's pretend that a 3-year-old is trying to insult you. And they don't have very many words. There was a 3-year-old over there. He doesn't have very many words yet. And the worst thing he can come up with to call you, because he's so mad, is to call you a poopy head. And you're like, oh, I'm crying on the inside with that one. Ooh, dear, dear, you know, it's breaking my heart. So the attitude with the who cares comebacks is like, yeah, whatever, I don't really care. So call me a loser or whatever, I'll point to you, and I'll give you some of the who cares comebacks.
Loser.
Nice try, but I don't think so.
Loser.
Not even close.
Loser.
Yeah, right, whatever.
Loser.
Denied. Oh, that would be a negative.
Weirdo.
Your point is you're telling me this because
Loser.
that makes you look bad and it's boring. Dude, no.
Nerd.
Oh, that's original.
Loser.
You think it's cool to be mean? You feeling proud now? That says more about you than me.
Loser.
That was mean and you're better than that.
Weirdo.
Don't be hating, that's not you. I mean, there's a zillion of these, right? So it's just like, whatever. And then there's basically agreeing with them. So let's say that they're teasing your kid about something that's true. Your kid is short, your kid is tall, your kid is overweight, they are super skinny, they do have big feet, they have a lot of freckles, they have glasses, they have braces. I say, if someone's teasing you about something that's physically true, don't argue with them, because they're just going to keep messing with you. Instead, smile and agree. Now, when I was a kid, I was the shortest kid in my class. I'm only 5'3" now, so I'm not that tall. I have heels on, but I'm pretty short. See, I'll take my shoes off. You see how short I am. So you're going to call me shorty, midget, shrimp, all those derogatory names for short, and I'm going to smile and agree with you. Watch.
Shorty.
Well, thanks for noticing. Yep, I am short. What, you just noticed that now?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm short. Nothing gets past you. Yep, I'll alert the media. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Right? So there's a million of these too. You know, where you just kind of smile in a lighthearted way and you agree. I had one kid getting teased because he was short, and he finally came up with this comeback, and this worked great for him. He looked at the kid who was picking on him, who was really tall, and he said, "Yes, I am short, but it rains on you first." That's a good one, right? Finally, the kid left him alone. And another kid who was getting teased because he was overweight. And so he had a couple. One of them, he'd rub his tummy and he'd say, "I'm not fat, I'm fluffy." And he'd say in a very lighthearted way, sometimes he would say, "Yes, I am fat, but there's more of me to love." But he'd say this lighthearted, and finally the kids just left him alone because he wasn't getting any play, right? And then there are times when none of those comebacks work. And if they're not working, then I tell the kids they have to be assertive. They have to look the kid in the eye, and they have to say something like this: "You seriously need to chill. It's boring, and if you don't stop, I'm reporting it." Even a 5-year-old could say, "Stop, or I'll report it," and then walk away. Even a kindergartner can look you in the eye and say, "Stop, or I'll report it." Now here's a little trick. I'll tell kids, you have to look the person in the eye when you're being assertive, because if you look down or around, you look weak to that kid. So a little trick is from this distance. If I look at the tip of your nose or between your eyebrows, you can't tell that I'm not looking you in the eye. So I tell kids, fake it till you make it. Stop, or I'll report it. Now what's wrong with this? Watch. You need to knock it off, or I'm reporting it. What's wrong with that? I'm just sitting there staring at her, right? I'm waiting till after the word "it," I'm walking. I'm out of there. Because if I sit there and stare at her, is she going to say something else to me? Yeah. Now, if you continue to give me a hard time, I'm going to simply report it. And your school has implemented something called the student report form for 4th grade through 8th grade. And then kindergarten through 3rd grade, they can just go and tell the teacher what's called the 5 W's. Who did it, what happened, when it started, where is it happening, witnesses. Witnesses are the kids who saw it besides the target, the other bystanders, right? So, what if your kid is neither the target nor the mean kid? What if your kid is the bystander? Now tomorrow, I'm going to spend a lot of time teaching your kids how to be good bystanders. For example, they're around 90% of the time when mean behavior happens, but if they're not trained, kids who are bystanders will only help 11% of the time. If you had to guess why do you think 89% of the time when they're not trained, bystanders just watch and do nothing, or they egg the mean kid on? Why? They're afraid, they think that maybe they're going to be the next target. So tomorrow we're going to spend so much time talking about different things they can do in different situations. Again, all the bystander strategies I'll teach your kids tomorrow, I didn't make any of them up. They all came from kids who have used them in real situations. The one that takes the most leadership, the most strength, is what's called the shutdown. There are more than 35 ways that bystanders can shut a mean kid down without putting them down. For example, if you called him a stupid loser and I went, "That was mean, chill out." Or "What's up with that?" Or "Nobody likes that." Or "Knock it off." Or "We don't do that here." Or "That's getting old." "That's really boring. Quit." Those are called shutdowns, right? And what's interesting is that without training, kids will either say, "You called him a stupid boy, that was awesome, that was really funny, he was a good one," you know, egging him on, or sometimes they'll just stand there like this and watch. But what I tell kids tomorrow is when you just watch and you do nothing, the mean kid automatically thinks your silence means you're on their side. And so does the target think that. He thinks, that whenever everybody's quiet and they're watching, that we're all with the mean kid and we liked what happened. So the shutdown is the first thing I'm going to teach them. But there are times when the shutdown's not the safest thing to do. For example, if I'm an 8th grader and I'm being mean to somebody, I don't want a 6th grader to march up to that 8th grader and say, you need to chill out. Because that 8th grader is going to say, I'm going to chill you out right now, right? So I tell kids, only use the shutdown with kids your age and younger. But there's other things you can do to be a good bystander. So come up here for just a second. Let's say that someone just says something really mean to you. What was your name again?
Kathy.
Kathy, okay. And let's say I catch up to you 5, 10, 15 seconds later and I say, that was really mean and it's not even true. Are you okay? I don't know why they're being so mean today, but that was not cool. I didn't like it. You sure you're okay? Come on, let's go hang out. Right? If I support her privately later, telling her I didn't like it, I didn't agree, even a 5-year-old could say, that was really mean, are you okay? Right? Let's go play, come on. Right? Even a 5-year-old can do that. So I can support you privately later, you're the only one that knows I did it, so it's safe. But at the same time, I'm letting you know I didn't agree. Another strategy is, what if she's standing there looking all crushed and hang-doggy? And this is what kids do, they look all crushed like they're going to cry in a minute, and I'll say, if you make this mistake, it's still not your fault that people are being mean. It's still their choice, this other person's choice. But if you're doing this, could I come by and say, come on, Kathy, we gotta go, I gotta tell you something. Could I physically get her away from the mean kid? Any excuse would work. I gotta tell you something, I gotta show you something, teacher's looking for you, they want you in the office, I wanna ask you something, you're never gonna believe what I heard, this is awesome, and just physically get her out of there. And once I got you away, I say, are you okay? That was really mean. What if Kathy's my best friend, and she's nice to everybody but him? She's always mean to him. So could I say to her, I know you don't like him, I know sometimes he bugs you, but don't do that. If he reports you, you're going to get in huge trouble. Don't do it, okay? That was really mean. And you know, girls who do this in one word, I can say, seriously, really, you had to do it? Come on. And they know that the friend doesn't like it. And if I'm your best friend and I say, I don't want you to get in trouble, don't do that, that's not cool. Could that make a difference?
Yes.
And what if she says, it's a free country, I can say what I want? A lot of kids will say that. I'll say, what I would train the kids to say is, you can think whatever you want, but you don't have to say everything you think. Just think it, don't say it. That was really mean. And if I'm your best friend, you might listen, right?
Yes.
Another thing is how to help stop backstabbing, gossiping, and rumor spreading. This is kind of a fun one to do. Kathy, can you stay up here?
I can.
Can I have 5 more people, 5 more women come up here for just a second? So I'm going to show you how to handle, I'm going to train the kids to stop backstabbing, gossiping, and rumor spreading. I guess I should put my shoes back on. That's 2. I need 4 more women. 4 more women. 3 on one side, 3 on the other. That's 3. 4. I need 2 more. Don't make me pick you. Come on, take a risk. 5. Julie, thank you. 1 more. Here, stand right next to me, right here. Need 1 more. Perfect. All right, come a little closer. Get next to each other. So let's say we're all sitting at the lunch table together, okay? Now, what did we say? Alicia was the safe name? Was it Alicia? Okay. So I'm going to start. Here, move this. I'm gonna start trashing Alicia behind her back. We can be 5th or 6th graders, okay? And there are several things that you can do to get me to stop. Here's the first thing. Politely disagree with me and act surprised at what I'm saying. Like this. Huh. Really? You think that? I don't think that. I like her. When you get to know her, she's awesome. Or I liked what she had on the other. I liked her shoes. I wear those. So in a nice way, just disagree with me and act surprised at what I'm saying. Are you ready? You all have to say something. I think Alicia is a freak and a loser, and she has the ugliest shoes I've ever seen. I think she gets all her shoes at Salvation Army. Maybe Goodwill. I mean, she's weird, you guys.
You think that? I think she's pretty awesome. I like her shoes.
Seriously? You like her shoes? You don't like them though, right?
All my shoes are from Salvation Army. I like them.
Good. Don't you find her a little annoying?
Sometimes.
No. You don't want to say that. You don't want to say that. You want to say, not really. Because if you start to agree with me, then I'm gonna have fuel for the fire, right? So you're gonna probably want to say, I think she's fine. And And, you know, maybe you are, you know, thinking she's ignoring, but I don't necessarily think that, right? Would you like her?
She's pretty nice to me. I get along quite well with her.
Now, if you did that in real life, if you guys started disagreeing with me, I wouldn't have another word to say. I'd be so done talking about Alicia. So that's one strategy I'm going to teach the kids tomorrow. The second one is called the awkward silence. So what I want you to do is put your poker face on. Don't smile, don't nod. Just stare at me for 10 long seconds. And then after 10 seconds, I want you to say, awkward. And then you can pipe in and go, yeah, that was totally awkward. Make me feel kind of creepy for being such a jerk about this. I think Alicia is so weird. She's the biggest brat in this whole school. And she has breath that smells so bad. She never brushes her teeth. I mean, do you guys even like her? Seriously. What?
Awkward. That was rude.
Good. Now, if you did that, I wouldn't have another word to say. I'd be so done. Another one, which is the one that adults do all the time, is just simply change the subject. Now, with little tiny kids, 3rd, 4th grade, I just have them say, let's talk about something else, and then start talking about something else. But older kids, they just jump into a change of conversation. So how old are we going to be? What grade? Give me a grade level.
First.
1st grade. Okay, that's kind of young. I don't usually teach this in 1st grade. I teach it starting in 3rd grade. Let's be 4th graders. Okay, so one of you just interrupt me and say, let's talk about something else, and then start talking about football or something. All right, here we go. I hate Alicia. She's so weird, you guys, and I don't think you should be friends with her because I think she's so strange, and you're waiting too long. You're all talking. Huh?
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, you can even interrupt me sooner.
Oh.
Yep. So when kids wait that long, I say, you're all waiting too long, and we're going to try this again. Take 2. Right? But that was the idea. And if you change the subject, I'm going to know that you guys don't want to talk about Alicia. Now, there's another thing you can do. It's called the group shutdown. I'm going to start trashing Alicia, and you're all going to say something to me like, that was mean, that was rude, can't believe you just said that, hope you don't talk about me like that when I'm not around. What'd that do for you? Seriously? Wow. Really? That was unnecessary. Everyone's got to say something. I think Alicia is a freak and a loser, and I can't stand her. And I don't think she should be my friend.
Whatever. Really? That's really unnecessary. That wasn't very nice.
Sorry. Now I might go, oh, whatever. But you think maybe tomorrow I'm not going to say another word about Alicia. Now let's pretend you're Alicia. Now with middle school girls in particular, it's a revelation to them that they are not supposed to go up to Alicia later and say, oh my gosh, I totally have your back on this one. You were never going to believe what they were saying about you. I want you so bad. I don't really have her back at all. I'm causing girl drama, right? And I'm causing her to have pain. So what I tell the kids is, you don't tell her, you don't tell anybody. What if they don't tell Alicia? But each one of you tells one other girl what I said. Now 12 girls know what I said about Alicia. By the end of the day, will Alicia know? Yeah, so what I say is, you try to get it to stop in the moment. Change the subject, disagree politely, use the awkward silence, use the shutdown, and then zip your lips. Shut them, close them, tell no one, no, not Alicia, not a friend of Alicia, no one. You let it die right at this lunch table, which is hard. But that's one of the things we want to train kids to do. Now, everybody can sit down except you. What about this? What if you're getting picked on every day, and you're one of these really shy, quiet kids who's just taking it and taking it. And I've been watching this go on for 3 days straight. And this one girl has been so mean to you. Could I do this? Aren't you sick of her? I will go with you if you want to report it. You want to go talk to someone about it? I'll go with you. Who do you want to go talk to?
The teacher.
Let's go, come on. And if I offer to go with you, are you more likely to get help?
Yes.
Well, what if she says, no way, I'm afraid of that kid. Or that kid will make it worse for me. What I could do is I could simply go and fill out a report form. And let the teacher know what's going on. Now here's the thing that I'm going to tell the kids tomorrow. And then we'll be almost done. If a student report form gets filled out on you after tomorrow, you cannot assume that the person who filled it out was the target. You can't assume that at all. It could have been one of the 15 bystanders who are watching you do this, who are sick of it, who told on you. Because one of the things I can do as a bystander is I can fill out a report form. I'm not going to tell you I did it. I'm not going to tell my best friend I did it, because my best friend is a blabbermouth. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to fill it out, I'm going to give it to my teacher, and I'm going to keep my lips zipped, and I'm going to make sure someone knows what's happening to you with this other girl involved. Right? Now, if this other girl comes up to me and says, hey, I got in trouble, did you tell on me? I'm going to tell the kids to not do this. Yeah, it was me. That's a bad idea, right? Is it a bad idea to say, when they say, did you tell on me, to go, maybe I did and maybe I didn't? Because what does that mean? You did. Should I say this? Well, that's none of your business. I don't have to tell you that. What does that mean? You did. Or, I don't know. What does that mean? So I'm just going to tell the kids, you're under no obligation to tell the mean kid that you're the one that reported it. You don't have to tell them. That's none of their business. So you just say, I don't know anything about that. Did someone report? I didn't hear about that. You act like you have no knowledge. Just very matter of fact, not like you're upset about it. Just, I don't know. And some of you are going, well, that's a lie. But in this particular case, I'm protecting another kid, and I'm also protecting myself. And I think there are shades of gray about telling the truth in a situation like that. I hope you do too. Questions or comments? Thank you so much. Questions or comments about anything that we talked about, what we're going to do with the kids, anything. What time is it?
Just after 8:30.
Okay, so we're kind of out of time. I'll tell you what I'll do. If some people have maybe a question, but they're maybe feeling a little uncomfortable, they don't want to ask the question in front of everybody, so I'm going to wait and just hang out, and I'm going to get my stuff together. And if you have an individual question about a particular situation or something you're not quite sure about, just come up individually and ask me the question privately after the session. So you guys have been a wonderful audience, and thank you very much.